Glad to hear that. Come on, Michael. Sure. I'm sure people are starting trickling in. I hope that what I want to trickle in is Jeremy. Oh, is he? Good deal. Good. So, no people entitled. Toastmasters today. Be there. You guys should come to Toastmasters at 1 o'clock.
Got an appointment.
No worries. Well, it's going to be filmed, I think. So, Toastmasters, guys, this is a way to really change your presentation skills. It's a lot of fun. Today we have speaking. You guys remember who's speaking? Wanda Allison, Chris, Ginger, and Chris. So it should be a pretty good lineup today.
Chris, Wanda, and Ginger.
It's awesome. Guys, I'm loving the Toastmasters series that we're in. I mean, we got a strong group. And if you actually lean in on that, it can change your abilities to present in any situation. Again, the Superstar Retreat, the Mike Ferry production, March 26th through 29th, C21 convention. The nice thing about this, guys, is that the fact that all of Realogy programs or companies are going to be there. That's the Coldwell Bankers, the ERAs, the Sotheby's. There's a couple more generic ones out there that they own. It's also going to be there. It's going to be a powerhouse collective of people, of companies. You'll get to rub shoulders with some of the strongest companies and strongest people in the business. So lean in on that. It's a great opportunity. Am I forgetting any announcements?
I would do the Mike Ferry Productivity School, so that's next month. You guys do get in $95 through us. Otherwise, it's made full price.
Yeah.
So just know that if you haven't signed up for that yet, you want to make sure you get registered for that. And it is a 4-day event. Productivity School is probably my favorite one. It's Ron Cronin, I believe, that's coming to do it. And it is literally how do you use the scripts and dialogues. So if you haven't been to that, highly recommend it. And they've done some change-ups in it, so it's fun to see.
Yeah. So aren't they doing some buyer stuff too now?
Yeah.
Which is a change. But like Mike says, when the market presents itself as to where buyers are a good thing to be touching base on, then he's going to be doing training on it. So attend for that also. Any others, Jason?
I just wanted to reiterate on the Youth Summit.
Oh, yes.
This is like our 3rd year. George and John will speak, and this year we're going to put together a youth panel. So we're looking for youth, ages 12 to 18, maybe even up into their 20s that have done something fabulous that should be on the Youth Summit. So if any of you know of anyone that started a little company, anybody.
I love that.
So we've decided to include that, and we're looking for 5 to 6 youth. And I'm not kidding you. Use this as like a client event. Even if you don't think they'll come, it's going to be so good to let your clients know, hey, we're doing a youth summit. Maybe you don't have a child 12 to 18, but you can bring your grandchildren. And we're going to get a flyer and something that you can actually send out to your Facebook. And it's where we have summit. And it'll be that Saturday from 11 to 1. It'll be fun.
Yeah, and if you have kids that you think are looking to be superstars, bring them. And look, nobody's doing this. This is a great opportunity to bring your kids and start them into something great early. So with that being said, let's turn this over to Jeremy, the president of our company.
Wow, thank you.
Look at that.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple quick things, and if I can just lean on Lindsay and Rick and Jason really quickly to maybe walk the halls real quick and even make sure there's an announcement to the 3rd floor, just to see if we can pull some people in here. And it's just a slow, quiet day around the office. What the heck? Are you guys ready to rock and roll in here, though?
Yes.
Oh, man, I can feel the love.
It's quality.
It's going to be awesome. Thank you. I agree with that.
Thank you.
But what I know is that the girl that sits on the front desk, who's sweet as can be and does a great job, when she gets on the announcement to say it's time for sales meeting, it's like, I'd like to thank you all for being here today, and please come to sales meeting. So we need someone to get some power going, right?
Yeah.
So are we ready? So we're hitting about the middle of February right now. Great time of the year, great time of the season. I actually went door knocking yesterday with some agents down in Orem, which was awesome. The agent said his blood pressure was rising at maximum level when we were getting out of the car. So you can imagine how uncomfortable he was when we were taking longer at a doorstep than normally would. Or who here has been door knocking? Okay, so you have some things you do when you door knock, right? And it can be like you have to kind of just dive all in, because if you go halfway, your door knocks are kind of like, oh, no one's here, let's go! Like you're trying to get out of there. Or sometimes what can happen is, for an example of one thing that happened yesterday was we were knocking on a door, looked like no one was going to answer, and a car pulls up. And like when that happens, you have this uncomfortable moment where you're like, am I going to speak to them? Or am I going to just keep going? What am I going to do? And we walk up, and it's a younger guy. He's like, I'm actually just here to see my brother. He lives here. I'm like, cool. Well, tell us about you. You going to school? What are you doing? And I can tell the guy I'm with is just drowning at this moment. Like, what are you doing? And then we keep going. Hey, how you doing? Good. We keep walking, and he says, yeah, I'm a brand new student at BYU. Like, I'm not buying a house for a few years. Awesome. How about your brother? I don't know. Let's go see. We go with your brother down to the house. And my point was just this. Man, if you're going to do it, do it. Get engaged in the process. Get engaged in the prospecting. And it's such a funny game, but we knocked on 20 doors, spoke to 4 people, and got one person's contact information that is potentially going to buy a house. Look, that took us 25 minutes. And I find it fascinating that, we maybe don't always have time for prospecting, right? Or at least that's what we tell ourselves, how busy we are. I know it was a very eye-opening experience for this agent, who, by the way, just for the record, he makes over $350,000 every year. This is not a spring chicken, brand new agent trying to figure it out. He's just trying to say, how can I do more? And that's actually the message that I want to share with this group today. Every year, beginning of the year, what tends to happen is agents who are producing a lot and had an awesome year in 2018, as an example, come to me and say, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can duplicate what I've just done. How do I do it again? Will I do it again? And then second, the agents also come to me and say, hey, I want to do more, but I had such a great year. Is it possible for me to do a little bit more? And so today what my plan is, I want to share with you what I believe is kind of the recipe, the ideal behind what you need to do to add more business to your palette. I want you to add more business to what's happening. And I want things to get easier, whether it's improving your dollars, whether it's improving your lifestyle, whatever it may be that you're seeking. But there's this kind of recipe that we've been talking about for years. Brenda Lee will have heard this, and Curtis 10,000 times. But the reality is learning is remembering, right? You got to keep hearing it over and over again. And I promise you that even if you've heard it 10,000 times, hearing it again today is only going to be helpful. So are you ready to rock and roll?
Yes.
You ready for the recipe?
Yes.
Woo! My goodness. So which one of these pens is going to work for me really well? The blue one?
Yep.
Let's hope.
If it doesn't, we know it should have.
No. You're going to find a good one for us, guys. So a permanent ink one. Man, that would be unfortunate. That would not be fun.
It wasn't.
Someone would be in big trouble. Okay. So, in opening to this thought, I mean, my idea would just be, look, Tony Robbins says this a lot. Success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. If you were to sit and look and see who's doing really well and who's consistently closing deals, all that stuff. In fact, I was on the phone late last night, with a top producing agent in our company who was talking about some of their year in 2017, just a kind of a backward conversation we're having. But he said, this business, you can create a predictable, reliable, duplicatable income. It's totally possible. He said, listen to this. In 2017 or 16, he said, off my personal transactions, here are my quarters: $51,000, $49,000, $52,000, and $51,000. Isn't that interesting? Every quarter, he was able to do that and keep the same consistent things. And we talked a little bit about what I'm going to share with you today, and he said, that's exactly it. When I'm on my game, doing what I'm supposed to do, the good things happen. When I'm off my game, I know it, and guess what happens? Well, nothing happens. And I shared recently in one of our podcasts the Zig Ziglar quote, if you aim at nothing, you will get it every time. But what I love is that you're sitting in this room right now, which means you're not aiming at nothing. You want to do something. You're after achieving something. So, number one. So this is the recipe. Set one appointment daily. Your goal, your objective, your chief aim in life when you get on the phone is to set one appointment daily. And look, I'm going to share 5 things with you today, and I'm just going to give some commentary on each one. What I have found over the years is I have spent hours and hours prospecting myself, being held accountable myself in different environments and situations, and then certainly having, look, what I share with you today, I share because I've lived it with you. This is not something I've simply just observed, which is also interesting to have that perspective. I've lived it. I've had goals where I've said, okay, I'll prospect 20 people a day. And all of a sudden it's 8 p.m. and I've only spoken to 15 people. How do you think those 5 calls went at the end of the day? Hi, this is Jeremy. Are you interested in doing a real estate transaction? No, okay, have a great day. I'm talking like go through the Wendy's drive-thru. Thanks for my 20 chicken nuggets. By the way, have you ever considered getting a real estate? Okay, thank you. Have a great day. I mean, you do what you can and focus on what? Achieving those contacts. Rather than, and this is my challenge to you today, what are you focusing on when you make a phone call? Are you focusing on getting that job done? Or are you focusing on setting an appointment? What is the objective that you're after? Are you moving the ball forward? Are you putting yourself in a position to get someone to say, yes, I will meet with you? And the thing that I'm observing the very, very most, which is going to be shocking, I hope, to some of you, it's simply not happening most of the time because we're not asking for it. The smallest, simplest part of the whole equation, we're just simply not asking for the appointment. We kind of go like meander around asking, try to come through a side door maybe, try to maybe pose some hypothetical possibility of maybe, possibly, potentially one day in the future, would you consider maybe meeting at some point? Think about the scripts that you're using. Do they lead you toward asking the question and getting a yes? Are you focused on asking the question and getting a yes? One of the most interesting experiences I've had, I think I've had 3 different situations or circumstances where I've been kind of in a smaller group with Mike Ferry, or was privileged to go last year to one of his coaching sessions where he was training his coaches. And does Mike Ferry have scripts? Yes. Does he use scripts? Yes. And it was interesting to see how he kept on his script, but he would ask so many other questions. And he was constantly just asking more questions, leading down that path to get what he needed to do. So just be thoughtful of that as you work through the process of making certain you're asking for the appointment. You must. If you don't, you're missing out big time. Great to see you, Mike. How you doing? I know, dude. Okay, so set one appointment every single day. That's the objective. That's the goal. Get it done. If I told you at the beginning of the day, set an appointment or your cat's going to die, do you think you could get that appointment set?
No.
Okay, for the cat lovers in the room, right? I'm trying not to be too gruesome here, all right? We could make it worse, but anyway, you know how to get that done. You know how to set that appointment. The key is, are you focusing on it? A couple other points I'll make about this. If you were to set one appointment per day, how many would you set a week? 5, okay? Which means with 4 weeks, how many would you set? 20. What if you took 2 months off? You didn't work for 2 straight months trying to set appointments, and you just worked for 10 months a year. How many appointments would you set? 200. Okay, if you had a close ratio, I mean, these are like appointments set, right? So by the time you've had X number of them attend and then X number of them work out, if you simply were to close 25% of those appointments, how many deals would you close? 50 transactions. Now, I know in your heads right now that some of you, at least some of you, are saying, well, that's not going to happen. That's not how it works. It's not that easy. You may not close 50 deals a year then. But there are people like here in the room and in this building and certainly within our organization that do that very thing. And this is the conversation I'll have with someone that says, I closed 100 transactions this year. What do I need to do to close more? Talk to more people, set more appointments. And again, most of the time when I sit down with agents and prospect and I discover from them and just listening, the first thing that I'm always looking for and the first thing I always catch is they're simply not asking for the appointment. So ask yourself, am I asking for the appointment and making sure you're doing it every time? Sound good? The numbers are real, guys. Like you can't lie about those numbers. Set 200 appointments a year, close 25% of them, which is low in my opinion. That's 50 transactions. It's awesome. Okay, number 2. Any points or thoughts about that, by the way? Any confessions? Anybody want to confess that they're not asking for the appointment? None. Okay, you guys are rock stars. Number 2. Take a contract weekly. Some contract of some sort every single week. Oftentimes we might say take one listing weekly, which is totally possible and doable, and you should do it. I just always add, just take a contract weekly. I don't care if it's a buyer broker, an exclusive right to sell, is focused on taking one contract every single week. Now, once again, this starts to dive into our skill set and how well are you presenting? How significant are you in the way that you're asking for not only the appointment, but then asking them to sign the contract. It is so essential, and I talk about this all the time, and I'm going to talk about it again, is the one thing that I see us missing so much is the idea of assuming the sale. Simply assuming that someone's going to work with you. So may I spend a minute just talking about that sales factor, the emotion behind the persuasion of it, and then also the response that we get?
Yes.
Awesome. Anybody here ever been to Michael's? Michael's Craft Store.
I've got drug in there before.
Okay. Been drug? Yeah, thank you. Yes. I thought Rick was saying something about drugs. I was like, confession time! Confession time was on point 1, Rick. So, Michael's Craft Store. My wife has sent me down there on a number of occasions. And do you think I ever in this life would like to receive an email from Michael's Craft Store?
Sure.
Ever? Would I?
No.
Curtis, no.
You look like
No.
you're a scrapbooker.
I'm not a big scrapbooker.
He's a
At all.
crocheter.
Okay?
Crocheter?
No, not a crocheter. I don't want emails from Michael's, ever. Why do I get emails from Michael's then, right now? That I'm constantly. Yes! You know why? Because the ladies assume the sale on me across the counter and get me to give them my email address. So let's talk about the philosophy and the mindset of that for just a moment. Oftentimes what happens is I will go through the line, be paying for the thing, and there's 2 different approaches that are taken. One of it always seems to be a younger woman that's the cashier, and she'll say, awesome, is this a debit or credit? A debit card. Great, what's your zip code? A4010. Great, and do you have an email address I can put on file? What do I say if they say, do you have an email address I can put on
No.
file? No, thanks.
No.
You know, kind of like that, oh, I'm okay. I don't need anything. I'm okay. I've got enough emails, right?
Just look.
This is script number 2 that is used at Michael's. Is this a debit or credit?
Yes.
What is your, yes, I usually say debit or credit. It's one of those 2. Is this a debit or credit? Great. What is your zip code? And what is your email? Every time they ask it that way, this is what happens in my mind. Remember that word. What is your email? She's expecting me to give her the email. And what does that do to me as a consumer?
Kicks in the gear. You want to go
Here's what's going on in my mind. I hope you can relate to this at some level. Tell me if you can. Is I go, oh, she's expecting me to give her my email address. I don't want to give her my email address, but she's really nice, and she's expecting it. So if I say no, it means that I'm going to disappoint her across the cash register. I don't want to disappoint this nice young girl across the cash register. Also, there's like 10 people in line behind me. Are they all going to think I'm a huge jerk by not just giving her this email address? I can just simply unsubscribe when the email comes through. Now, I know this happens in milliseconds, right? But this is all happening to me. Can you relate? Have you ever had this happen to you? Please tell me yes, or else I'm the only one. Thank you. I'm like, I need a few minutes, actually, if I'm the only one. Exactly. So all of a sudden, I then say, okay, you can reach me at robdavis@gmail.com. So what I say is, she says, what is your debit or credit? What is your zip code? What is your email? And all that happens, I go, laguerre24@gmail.com. It's exactly like that every time. And I don't want it, but it happens. And the psychology of that persuasion is what overtakes that. So I just want to think about that for a moment. When you think about taking a contract every week, getting someone to say yes, and the idea of persuasion versus manipulation. Now let's think about this girl for a moment again at Michael's. Is she trying to manipulate me into giving up my personal information so that she can defraud me and do some kind of identity theft?
No.
No, what is she trying to do? Why does she want to get, what happens if you have emails from Michael's? You get coupons. And like good coupons for the record, like 50% off type coupons and stuff like that, right? Still don't want them, but I'm just saying she's trying to do something good for me, okay? So she's not ill intent, right? And I know that, okay? If some shady dude in a white van in Walmart walked up to me and said, "Excuse me, sir, what is your zip code and what is your email address?" I don't care how hard he assumes the sale, I'm not going to give it, okay? You got to differentiate that. Then when you start to talk about us, what are our intentions? Well, are your intentions to manipulate people, overprice their listing, put their home on the market so that you can get all their buyer leads and never help them sell their home? No. Okay? It took you guys a little too long to say no there. No, that is not what we're trying to do. You guys know that. I know none of you are doing that. Our intention is to help them, right? Our intention is to get our job done at a really high level, to get their home sold for the most money, negotiate a great deal for them, oversee the transaction, and make sure it's smooth. That's what we're trying to do. The difference is that when you look at the difference between manipulation and the difference between persuasion is what? It's your intention. And so I often make sure that we have to be clear that do you need to use persuasion in your job?
Yes.
Yes. You are in sales. Don't forget that. You're still in sales. You're a salesman. You're a saleswoman. You need to learn the skills of how to connect with people, how to be capable of working with their different personalities, being able to figure out when is the right time to say yes, understanding that if someone has said yes 5 times, they have a greater chance of having them say yes another time, okay? Just be thinking of how these things work and understanding that. Anybody here read the book Influence?
Yep.
I think it was our book group, yeah. Phenomenal book about the mentality and how this stuff works. So, take my Michael's example and imagine for a moment you're sitting across the dining room table or coffee table in the living room with someone, and you have an opportunity where you have done your presentation, you've hit a home run, you have one last thing to do. You need to get some signatures on the papers. It's really important, right? Have you ever had the moment where you say, okay, I've done mine, and you're almost waiting for them to say, where do we sign? What comes next? I've had that moment.
Yeah.
And what ends up coming out of my mouth because I'm too afraid or I'm not confident in my persuasion ability. Early in my career, I had multiple times that I went, so we'll talk soon. I will follow up with you.
Let me know.
You'll let me know what your thoughts are. What I never did was say, let's go ahead and get the contract signed so I can get a sign up in your yard tomorrow. What I never did was take a close and say, anything else? Any other questions that you have for me? No. Is there anything else you would expect from your real estate agent? No. Was there anything that would get in the way of us signing this paperwork today? No. That's the 3-no close. I said no 3 times, but what did they actually say? Yes. Okay, do you know these things? Are you using them? Are you working on them? Are you practicing them? I hope you are. So the psychology of getting people to say yes, again, I would still argue because I have seen it. whether it's getting a buyer broker agreement signed on the hood or the trunk of a car or in the first house you go into, or whether it's getting an exclusive right to sell signed across the dining room table, is that if you slide that paperwork across the table and say, I just need to start with an initial right here, guess what's going to go through the mind of that seller or that buyer? I promise you. The same thing that all of you and that I just said goes through our mind. Well, he's expecting me to sign that, or she's expecting me to sign it. And they did a good job. They gave a good presentation, and I like them. And I mean, I know we've got other realtors we're going to meet with, but they seem really good. And ooh, I feel awkward telling them no. That's the huge one, guys. People feel awkward telling you no. And all of a sudden, guess what's going to happen? They're probably going to sign that paperwork. Or give you an objection, and you know what you need to do? Know your objection handlers. In our script book, there's the master close. I won't spend a ton of time on this right now, but you should know that backward and forward, because to me, it's one of the best closes you can use. Because you simply continue on this cycle of, are there any concerns? Great, let's do the paperwork. Oh, what stops us from doing that? Oh, you have a concern. Let's address that concern. I mean, it's a really interesting, you should know this, backward and forward. But my point is, the same psychology that comes to me and you as consumers is the same psychology we should be using in persuading people to sign our agreements. Agreed?
Agreed.
Awesome. Okay, number 3. Oh, one other comment. We had a meeting actually this week with our leadership team, and I know for a fact that when I say set one appointment daily or take one contract weekly, even when I tease about having a poor mindset, I know people are having a poor mindset about it and saying, I can't do that, you know. And it was so funny the other day we were in this meeting, and it was George that brought this up, and I had never thought about it this way. It's like, what would you want us to say here? Would you want us to say, take a contract every 14 days? Take a week off. Focus on something else for that week. Take the contract 2 weeks, every 2 weeks take one. Nobody wants that. Seriously, think about it for a moment. It is right within your grasp to be able to do it. Mike very often says that it's nothing more than you getting in between a buyer and a seller. Are you being that hunter, that fisher, putting yourself in that position to get between the buyer and seller? I hope so. I mean, I look out over the valley right here. I always do this when I'm up here, but how many people are within just our eyesight right now that are ready to make a purchase or ready to sell their home? You just have to go get between it. Figure out the way to get between it. Okay, number 3, I'll do work your SOI. So one time I sat in a room with about 40 agents. Actually, a couple of them are in the room right now. And I asked the question, how many of you are working with your SOI? Every hand went up. And the question when I ask, are you working with your SOI, is easy, because every one of you right now would also say, yeah, I work with my SOI when they call me. I'm happy to list their home if they call me to do that. I'm happy to go show them homes if they call me to do that. You switch the question around and say, how many of you are actively working your SOI? The difference there is meaning that you're taking steps and actively doing systems, strategies, approaches, campaigns, whatever it might be, to actually engage and get your SOI into a transaction with you. So this room that had 40 hands go up had like 1 hand stay up after that. So I raised the same question to you. You don't need to raise your hand, but are you actively working your sphere of influence? And even if in your mind you said yes right now, if you and I sat one-on-one right now and I said, cool, tell me about your awesome SOI plan. What are you doing to connect with them? What are you doing to engage them? What are you doing to get them to say yes? My guess is, as a general statement, most people would maybe be like, I'm still refining this process. I'm still working on it, right? And I see some smiles going on because you're guilty. Guys, think for a moment about what you want out of this business and recognize that your sphere of influence is such a huge resource for you. I like to think about like the gold miners, for example. You know, they find some gold. Do they just brush off, chip off that gold, and then they like walk down the mine and look for something else? No, they look for these veins of gold. It continues. They go deeper and deeper. My experience has been, personally and also professionally, collectively with a group of agents, that for the most part, if you were to do a tally of all of your real estate transactions, Generally, a large portion of those are going to be from your sphere of influence, which can include your past clients, friends, families, associates, networking, some people. And we must tap into that at a greater level. Be like that miner that digs just deeper into that arena, figuring ways out. Yesterday I had a meeting with Terry Taylor, a great agent down in our Orem office, and we, 2 weeks ago, Matt, talked about how she can work that area a little bit better, and we talked about an idea of possibly like a neighborhood party at a park and getting a movie going also. And it was kind of like, yeah, that sounds good. And I was like, no, it's not. It sounds good. Here's what you need to do. And I gave her some action items. It was so cool yesterday to sit down with her and be like, I've called the park, scheduled a date, have plans for a movie set up, working on invitations, and she's going to have 1,000 people from this old neighborhood she used to live in come to a park one evening, watch a movie, have popcorn, do potluck, whatever it might be, all sponsored by her. Is that a pretty good idea?
Yeah.
If she gets 1,000 people, even if she gets 500 people to show up, will she pull any transactions from that?
Yes.
There's no doubt. There is no doubt. So what are you doing creatively to work your sphere of influence? What are you doing to capture more of those? There are great free tools here that are available at your fingertips, your Business Builder, your Zap. If you're not using those things, make sure that you're getting acquainted with them. Make certain that you're understanding them. And at very minimum, I can just talk just for a moment here. What I found over the years is that people, when I talk about sphere of influence, they're either open to it or they are not. And what I mean by that is that they immediately shut down the idea that I can't work my sphere of influence. That's going to require me to call a family member, a friend, and I'm going to have to ask them to give me money. How can you help me earn money? Who do you know that can help put money in my pocket? That's the approach and the way they're looking at this, right? Anybody ever feel that way? They're afraid to make that call because, cool, couple hands up, couple liars. Awesome. So what I have found in this regard, and I'll never forget the day I drove down 200 West in Bountiful, Utah, and saw a for sale sign by, at the time, Prudential in front of my uncle's home. Yeah. And my uncle sold a house in Bountiful, bought a home in Bountiful, sold a house in St. George, bought a house in St. George. 4 transactions that I know with absolute certainty that if he knew that I had a real estate license, just knew about it, there was no question he would have worked with me. He would have signed everything, paid the full cost, done everything, and that's all great and dandy. And here's what I thought at the time was, boy, I missed out. I really missed out on that. Well, as months went on, guess what I started to discover? When I got a little more savvy in the real estate world, this was very early in my career, I decided to go back and look up a little bit more about his transaction. Guess what I found out? He got taken advantage of pretty heavily. You know, he's a great uncle, so he's like an 80-year-old guy, okay? And he got taken advantage of pretty significantly, in my opinion. Would I have taken advantage of him, guys?
No.
Are you going to take advantage of your SOI?
No.
Is there possibly another reason that you should be reaching out to your sphere of influence, family and friends? Go ahead.
This is kind of related. I hope it doesn't distract. One of
Me
my
too,
goals,
for the record.
One of my goals is to master salesmanship. Okay. And for me, salesmanship equates with service.
Yes.
And if you don't want to service your friend, your family, and
Yeah.
help them, then you don't need to master salesmanship. You can just let them, you know, there's no point in contacting them. You're just using them.
I love that thought. Yeah, it's a beautiful thought. You know, the part of, we often say that when you join our company or join the industry, period, but one of the mindsets that we have here is that if you didn't recognize or know before, you must recognize and acknowledge you got into this business to become a great communicator. You must provide great service. And look, I see it. I've spent basically the last 12 years of my life almost wholly devoted to the idea of helping build up agents in their business and building up my company, this company. And over time doing that, I hope you'd grant that I've had a unique perspective into the world of agents. And the agents who focus on, we talk about it all the time, the agents who are focused on providing great customer service, providing a great experience, they get repeat and referral clients. The agents who do not do that, their business is a mess. I can't say it any other nice way. It is a wreck. I take a lot of complaint phone calls from unsatisfied customers, sellers, buyers, whatever it is. And I can tell you that there's a very small handful of individuals that I get repeat over and over unsatisfied people. They are not focused on customer service and don't see that as a skill. So you must. It is a great point. And then as it relates to your family and friends, I just asked the question, thanks again. Before that was raised, I asked the question, could there possibly be another reason we should be wanting to work with our SOI? And I hope that what you're seeing through that is what I experienced with my uncle is I'm going to provide them a great experience. I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to make certain that they have a phenomenal experience through this process. So what I've learned through this experience is at very minimum, people may not be comfortable with the idea of calling people up and saying, hey, I'm reaching out to see who you know you can refer to me. That's a conversation we can have another day about the mindset of that. But don't let that be like this giant stumbling block that gets in your way of working your SOI. 99.999% of people I've experienced are totally okay with the idea of at least notifying people that they are in the business of real estate. Making sure someone in your family, friends, neighbors, whatever it might be, understand and know, yes, I work in real estate, and yes, I can serve you and help you out. If you're willing to do that, business will start to flow. You'll start to see it. So another quick example, I was on a missionary for the LDS church, and our mission president sent an email out, did not blind copy everyone. Okay, he put everyone's emails on, so everyone saw. And here I'm sitting here getting this email, having regarding a reunion, and saying, oh my gosh, this is fascinating because I just got set up with a service like Business Builder. And I'm like, what do I want to do? I mean, I know most of these people and I get along well with them. Do I want to be that guy? And I started to like kind of negotiate with myself. And finally I made the determination, I cannot afford to not do this. So I stuck every one of those names and sent out this campaign, monthly campaign. Some of the people unsubscribed. Some of them sent me texts and emails back saying, oh, you're one of these guys, huh? Ha ha ha, funny, love you, whatever. All good stuff. But I am telling you that even up until this past month, I am still reaping the rewards from that decision 13 years ago to put all of those names in. So do you at minimum have a campaign set up? And if you do not, I've got a free one for you. You already have a login, 21 online, and you can give a million reasons why you shouldn't do it. I'll tell you what, it's better than the system you're currently using, which is no system. Deal? And your faces and smiles and guilty looks tell me that we're hitting the nail on the head right now. So great. Get set up with this. We can teach you how to use Business Builder. Notify people. Focus first on notifying. Refine that process as you go. Number 4. Contact clients weekly. How are we doing on time? So guys, think about the market that we've been in right now. Has communication been super important? I see some people saying yes. I would argue that while communication is always important and you should be a great agent, there are a lot of people closing a lot of transactions right now doing a horrible job of communication. Okay? That's going to change. The market is currently shifting. The market's going to continue to shift. Your ability to communicate and be in touch with your clients is going to be paramount. So let's talk for just a moment. You know, there was a time when homes weren't selling in like 2 hours after you put them on the market, right? We're starting to feel that a little bit more now. I hope that you are. I know that we're seeing that. So think about this for just a moment. If any of you can relate or lived through the bad market before, is there was a time when all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I think I can get this home sold for you in the next 90 to 120 days. It's crazy to imagine saying that to someone, but it was a big deal. And then the next thought is that when you get a home on the market and it just sits, what type of communication are you having? So I met earlier this week with a company called Green River. They're like the largest REO trustee in the United States, I believe, handling everything for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and stuff. Really cool, interesting thing. But we posed the question, what is it that is important to you about the agents that you're working with? What is critical to you about the agents? Now look, they didn't say, that they get the gas shut off fast, or that they have a great marketing strategy, or that they negotiate really well. Every single person, we had 3 separate groups at 3 separate times walk in the room. Guess what every one of them said? Communication. Every single time. And it's like as though I didn't know how important communication was on Monday this week. I can't tell you how much more important all of a sudden I'm like, wow. It's like getting hit in the head with a brick and going, it's so key. Like these guys, they don't care about how much money they're going to get and this, that, and the other. They simply care that the job is getting done properly and you're communicating. So, my challenge for each one of you is that on a weekly basis, you're taking time and figuring out who are all of my active and under contract sellers right now, who are my potential sellers, and then who are your current active buyers and potential buyers. And that you make absolutely certain that every single day every single week, these individuals are getting a phone call from you. Because communication is key. It's like that idea of being visible, staying in front of someone. I would say what I did when I was selling full-time, I actually on Fridays would have an hour set aside, and it was my contact client hour. And I just knew that on that Friday, no matter what was going on, even if the people said I prefer a text message or whatever else, or you'd have 4 showings that week, and you've talked to them 4 times about the showings and that they need to be out of the house between a certain time, and you've texted them. I stopped giving myself any of those excuses and said, I will call them every week and just talk to them about the following things. What is the current status of either their purchase or their sale? What my efforts have been in the past week to get their home sold. Number 3, what's happening in the market? And then number 4, what are my recommendations? What do I suggest as their professional that they do? And then to take it to a step higher as far as your communication and ability that way, actually writing down what you're talking to them about so that you can manage. Because when things start to go south and people start to question, maybe I have the wrong agent, maybe I this or that. If you can imagine the power and strength you have when you can go, no, I've called every week. I've communicated this information to you. 2 weeks ago, I actually recommended this 2 weeks ago. I'd really like to, and it's not to do this like in an arrogant, like I told you so type thing. You got to still learn how to communicate in the right way, but just making sure they know you're on their side, that you have solutions for them, and that you've been working hard at accomplishing those. Just think about every buyer and seller you have right now. If they got a phone call from you every single week to talk about the market, your efforts, the results from showings or negotiations, and then certainly your recommendations, would that make a difference in your relationships with these individuals? Absolutely. There's no question about it. So make certain that this is part of your minimum standards. And then number 5, participate. In my opinion, participation is essential to keeping your mindset strong, keeping you focused and engaged in your business, and just simply showing up. My experience has been over the years, as I said earlier, about 12, 13 years almost solely focused on leadership from an agent standpoint, either building a team, building a brokerage, all of those types of things. I think I could count on easily on one hand people who I have met and known that can work effectively from home. And I'm hesitating to say one hand because I truly believe it's only 3, and I want to acknowledge that. Saying 5 sounds like too many to me right now. If you think you're one of those people, I bet you're not. It is so important that you get yourself engaged and around other people that are winning the game of real estate. 5.5 years ago, when my company and George's company merged, the top producers of our companies were about the 350 range. and a ton of people connected now came together that were competitive, wanted to do big things. And yes, you can argue and say, well, the market has done better and this, that, and the other. Right now, all of these individuals are competing in the $1 million range. And what I can tell you is that every one of them would point to the fact that it was great to get an environment where people were succeeding at a high level. It was great to get an environment where I could see these individuals that perhaps I think I'm better than even are producing twice as much as I am. If they can do it, I can do it. And what are they doing differently? Well, I see them showing up at sales meeting, morning ascents, prospecting in the pit, whatever that might be, and starting to follow what I said at the beginning. Success leaves clues. So just consider for a moment the importance of participation. Now, we offer so many things for you to do from a participation standpoint. Pick what works for you in your schedule. It's like this buffet of information. Pick what works for you and then commit and engage with it. If someone's not doing anything at all, then what I typically say is you need to set a new standard of at least engaging in 1 or 2 things every single week. Summit for everybody should be non-negotiable, that you show up to Summit no matter what. But every week, how about a couple morning ascents? How about attending a sales meeting? There's 3 sales meetings up and down the Wasatch Front that happen every single week. Can you get to one of them? The answer is yes. Make it a priority. Now, some of the things I hear is, oh, I don't want to listen to Jeremy. You know, I've heard Jeremy talk before, so I don't want to hear from him. I don't care if anything I say doesn't impact you. That's not true. I want what I say to impact you. And I'll feel sad if it doesn't. But the reality is, what I know is just sitting yourself down in a chair, open to learning and participating is going to benefit your life. Even if it's just sitting down with a pen and paper and hearing me say SOI, and you go, sphere of influence. It's interesting. I've been saying for 4 years I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a plan for my SOI right now. I don't care if you listen to everything else I say. Put yourself in an environment for learning and be open to it. For years, George used to say, he'd have this thing where he'd say, like physically, fold your arms before a meeting starts, and now I want you to unfold them. Okay? Who was at our summit this last week? Tony Robbins guy. Okay? That was really fun for me to look around the room and watch the different levels of engagement to this. And actually just a testament to the idea of our body language. So there's one of our employees, not a broker or anything, kind of an admin, great person, love them to death. And I just got the biggest kick out of the fact that when he had us stand up and started doing something like the yes, 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 stuff like that, this person's arms were like tight. And I'm talking like tight against their body. And I know they were not doing this on purpose or to try to avoid anything. It was purely like their body's natural reaction to the idea of learning something new that was going to make them uncomfortable. So if you remember, if you were there, we did it one time and it was like, didn't go great. And he gave a great speech and got us all to do it again, and like the volume increased, the energy increased. I don't know, I turned back around to look at this individual, and the arms weren't just folded. The thumbs were extended, and they were under the armpit, shoulders pushed down, like elbows in, like I am not letting these hands out of my arms. They are stuck there. I will not do this thing. And it was so funny to watch that reaction. And here's the other interesting thing, feedback. Tons of different feedback from people. Some people that were like, oh man, I was so uncomfortable with that. And then all of a sudden they'd be like, I actually felt good though after I did it. Actually, it was kind of neat to stop for a moment and envision what my future looked like and commit to it. But it's interesting to see when you participate, when you engage, good things happen. The other person that wasn't participating just thinks everyone's weird now. I didn't have a chance to stand up after. I was going to stand up and say, it's funny when you're in a room and you're the weird one for not doing all of that stuff. So, but guys, it was a good experience. That's just a funny thing. So participate, engage in something, make learning critical. So in closing, these are standards that you should have in your life. In my opinion, if you will stick to these things, you will earn more in 2019 than you have ever earned in your life. And I don't care if you made $20,000 last year or $1.2 million last year. I believe wholeheartedly in what I'm saying. if you will engage in these things, will happen. I want to talk to you about the word standard for a moment. You might say, I need to set some standards. You might say, I don't have standards relating to this. You do. You do have standards. It's just they might be really bad standards. And you have to acknowledge that that's what's happening in your business. But just for fun, this is kind of a funny exercise and at least thought process. But think for a moment about personal hygiene standards. I want to use like taking a shower or a bath for a moment. Okay? I'm just going to go ahead and assume that everyone does that every single day in the room. Don't tell us if you don't. Have you ever had a situation where, woke up late, had to throw clothes on before you had time to get in the shower, or went to the gym and had something you had to go get to and you didn't have the chance to shower? Everyone has to have experienced that at some level or another. How do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel comfortable? Think about it. Okay, Rick, I love it. He feels crusty. Okay? I use the word like icky. Okay? Like you get through the day okay, but you're kind of like, you just can feel it a little. Like you just feel a little uncomfortable. You want to go get that done, right? Are you guys with me on this, or am I the only one? All right. It's okay. So I want you to imagine for a moment. That's because you have set and ingrained in your life a standard.
Yep.
And when you don't meet that standard, you don't feel good, you don't feel comfortable, and you feel icky. And here's what I found over the years is that top producing, I don't have to say top producing agents, people who are living life at a high level, my experience has been is that they set standards, and when they don't achieve them, they feel icky. And if your standards are so low that it's not getting where you want to be or raising, it's time to raise your standards. Do something that's going to push you a little more. Do something that's going to inspire you and motivate you. It's not good enough to just say, my standard is to wake up alive every morning. That's super inspiring, right? No. What are you going to do with your day? What time are you going to wake up? What are you going to do for that first hour that you're awake? Start to think about what these standards could and should be. And as you see your life get better because of them, when you're not living those standards, right? So for example, how cool would it be that if you didn't set an appointment in a day and it was 3 o'clock, or you hadn't taken a contract that week and it was Thursday afternoon, that icky, gross feeling of like, man, I know I'm not where I need to be, was so powerful that it compelled you to get done what you know you need to get done and meet and live the standard that you have in your life. These are 5 standards that I know if you'll follow and set for yourself, you're going to make more money and accomplish more and feel more accomplished than you ever have in your entire life. Make them your standards, try to live them, and watch what happens. It's exciting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts they want to add to what we've talked about? Awesome. Guys, have a great day. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, sir.
And showers.
When did you get that?
Monday.
Nice. How was it?
It was fabulous. I loved your picture. It was the best.